Give It To Me By would like to acknowledge that we live and work on Gadigal land. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay our respects to elders past and present. Sovereignty was never ceded. This is Give It To Me By, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything from a bi plus perspective. I'm Chad Barnier.
And I'm Steve Spencer. Together, we're diving into the real stories, the challenges, and the celebrations of the bi plus community. We are here to learn together and, of course, to laugh together.
From personal journeys to cultural moments, we are here to amplify a bi plus point of view and spark conversations that matter.
So, whether you're bi, pan, queer, or just curious, join us as we explore the world of bi plus experiences.
Now, let us give it to you by. Hello.
Hello, Britt.
Hi.
We
Hi,
have a
Gay.
very
We need a new one.
guest.
Hi,
bye.
Hi, bye.
Hi,
Okay.
bye literally works better than hi, gay.
Well,
Oh, wait,
Yeah.
this week,
Hey,
Heidi
go,
has
hi,
said
bye.
to me a couple of times, like, see you later, bye. And I want to say, see you later, straight. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Steve.
Welcome.
Welcome to
Thank you.
special guest, Britt. Give it up for Britt.
Woo!
Welcome to the
Thanks
pod,
for
Britt.
having me. No, this is so exciting.
Friend of the pod, Britt, everybody, is here joining us because today we have this isn't a hotly requested externally episode. This is a hotly requested internally episode. I have been asking.
Chad has been like, when's the pegging episode? When's the
Well
pegging
done.
episode?
Well
Yeah.
done.
It is a topic that we know it's a bit taboo. It's a bit unknown. There's some mysteries and mysterious around the corner kind of conversations happening about pegging. That is the topic of today. We're talking all things pegging. And Steve and our wonderful guest, Britt, actually have a history and
Wow.
actually have
more
experience
specifically-
speaking and facilitating pegging workshops, which is just
We
an
do.
utter treat. When we announced the podcast as a whole, we actually got comments saying, oh my gosh, that Steve guy, I went to one of his pegging seminars. This podcast is bound to be great. So here we are delivering on the promise.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It is exciting. And, you know, Britt and I, Britt, like you said, longtime friend of the pod, close confidant, serial troublemaker, and co-presenter of our pegging workshop. Britt, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk all things pegging.
Get pegged.
Yeah. But first, before we go into the main portion of the episode, we
are
have
cracking a bottle of
some
wine. There we go.
wine.
Loosening up.
We have some wine. Well, if I'm allowed to have a little vaporoo, you're allowed to have a little wine.
There we go. I went and grabbed a bottle of wine before we were recording. My partner was like, are you loosening up for talking about pegging? Yes.
And look, we're going to go through all sorts of different ways you can loosen up. What I like to say is you if you want to loosen up your hole, you've got to loosen up your mind.
That's almost romantic.
What'd you say last episode? You're a poet.
100%.
So, there we go.
You're a poet.
Yeah. Douche your mind before you douche your hole.
Yes.
But before we get into that, let's go over some of our weekly bylights, people.
Britt, do you have a bylight this week? Do you have a bi POV highlight, something that happened this week through your bi experience that was either exciting? Maybe you could also have a low bylight. Steve had a low bylight last week.
I did. Ask misery gods.
So I went on a boat party on the weekend.
Yes, great.
Ooh.
I think I saw photos of this boat party.
Yes. And it was just me and one other girl on the boat party.
Wait, a 2-person boat party.
Yes, 100%.
That's
Wow.
not about. Okay, this is your story.
No, it's a boat party with a lot of gay men, mostly gay men, and then it was me and another bi queen. And I feel like I don't spend a lot of time with other bi women, so I think it was just a really, really nice, open-minded, fun day.
That's awesome.
It's just like an amazing thing to be able to connect with, other bi people, I guess.
Love that for you. That's great.
Thanks.
And then so that 2-person boat party was a 2-person bi party.
Absolutely.
Great. That's awesome. Nice
Next year it's going to be a bi boat party. So
done. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah, necessary.
Well, Britt and Chad, you're both part of the bi coven I've been forming here in inner Sydney.
Great.
A curated coven of bi people. Curated as in everyone is welcome. If you want to join the coven, it's exactly what you just said, Britt. There's nothing more enriching than being around other bi people. If we're lucky, it happens by chance, but also sometimes something we talk a lot about on this podcast is you have to make the spaces that you want as well. And so we do that.
I'm so about that, especially as an adult. I've had this conversation a few times with people. Like, as an adult, it's so hard to make friends. Like, when we're kids, we go to school together. So, like, proximity, we're going to be friends. Or you play sport together, or you're in, like, theater club or something together. And then you go to work, and it's like, okay, do I want work friends? Like, am I crossing a boundary that feels a bit awkward? I don't really want to hang out with work people outside of work. Sometimes maybe it's appropriate, maybe it's not. So as an adult, you can kind of find yourself isolating slowly over time. Like, I used to have 50 friends. Now I have like 3. And so you really have to make an effort to go out and find people and go, you're coming with me. We're going to do this together. It's beautiful once you put that work in, but it is work as an adult to make friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that means you use the right word, like curate it. You can curate incredible connections with people.
I like that. It's almost like thinking of your friends as like a gallery. Like, I've curated these works of art. They just happen to talk to me about my problems.
Gorgeous. Look at this one. I acquired this last week.
I'm friends with the artist. Steve, what's your bylight this week?
Oh, yeah. So I have one. It's good news out of disappointing news. So Alex Greenwich here in New South Wales is trying to put through what is called the Equality Bill.
Yes, which we spoke about on episode 4 with Amber Loomis.
So we talked about that because it's got lots of implications, not just for the broader LGBTQ plus community, but very much for bi plus people who, for example, in New South Wales are not protected by anti-discrimination law. So today we got some news that some things were being taken out of it to ensure its success to run through the New South Wales Parliament. Yeah. But
which I might just kind of jump in because I've seen some comments online saying that Alex Greenwich is somehow at fault or not representing all the people he aimed to represent. But this is Alex Greenwich, one of our only like major allies in Parliament, and it's a long time coming just to get to this point, and pragmatically has recognized that going through with the full omnibus bill won't be successful. And so to push it through, he's had to split it up into a bill that might actually be received in Parliament. So just to kind of jump on Alex's team a little bit, because it's pretty awful to really try your hardest to represent everybody, which we know is so hard, and get knocked down at every turn. And then so we make a couple of sacrifices to make sure that something happens, and then you are somehow to blame for it, when Alex is such a champion for the whole queer community.
Yeah. And that's politics. Unfortunately, that's politics. That's the system. It's not always easy, and you're not always going to get what you want, which is incredibly disappointing, especially if you're affected by these things that are
absolutely
quite huge. But to clumsily use something that someone taught to me as a young advocate was don't let perfect be the enemy of good. If you can achieve something, things can be done in steps. You can't always take the full bite.
Like aiming for perfect and getting 0, it sucks for everybody, and aiming for near perfect and getting 90% is awesome.
But what has been brought into the equality bill, the proposed equality bill, is new coercive control offence for threats to out somebody. Now, this really stood out to me because bi plus people in particular are affected because, dare I say, most of us are in relationships with people who do not share our sexuality. So we're in different sexuality relationships. And quite often, that information about our sexuality can be used in a controlling, coercive manner. It can be used to, if you come out to your partner and they threaten to out you to people if you don't do something, or if you break up with me, or other things. Or a lot of people are too afraid to come out to their partner because that might happen down. What happens if we break up? Are they going to go telling people?
Mm-hmm.
And this is all based in the stigma around bisexuality. If there was no shame placed on bisexuality, then this wouldn't exist. But the fact of the matter is people use bisexual people's sexuality against them. And so this is putting into law that is making that very illegal. It's really incredible. And I'm not sure if people are going to have realized the really great ramifications this has for bi people. This makes it safer for us to come out. This makes us safer in relationships. It's really, really quite wonderful.
And so that's super timely when you consider that last Friday was National Coming Out Day, and we had Bi Visibility Month. And so really cool to see something like this take shape. Something that it's one of those things that like we think about, what should we be fighting for? Like we talk about this all the time, like what kind of things should we be pushing for? That's actually one that has never crossed my mind. And so it's really cool. Steve, you mentioned in another episode that everyone kind of works on things concurrently and they kind of all come together for a holistic lifting of the tide over time, that you don't have to fight every fight. You can absolutely fight your fight and someone else will fight their fight, and they'll hopefully link up and we'll get some really great progress. And so so cool to see progress in an area that I've never considered.
Totally. And I actually wouldn't be surprised if they didn't have bi people in mind when they developed that inclusion. This is likely being put in to protect all queer people from being outed, but in particular, especially because coercive control is something within a relationship dynamic, and because we as bi plus people are so disproportionately affected because we have different sexual relationships. It's just huge for us.
Thank you, Alex, for fighting the good fight.
All right, Chad, tell us your byline.
My byline. Cool. So I kind of have two. They're kind of tied together. Coming off the back of last week's episode, the coming out episode, we kind of thought to ourselves, we really want to come up with some kind of resources. It's something we've spoken about previously. We want to make sure that the podcast doesn't just kind of stand alone and like, hey, cool, that's some good hour chats here and there. But we are really fortunate in one that we're connecting with a really wide community. We're also connecting with some freaking unreal minds, people who have really great opinions and thoughts and advantages because of the work that they do, that hopefully we could kind of turn some of these chats into something that can maybe last a little bit longer than just some audio on the internet. So we had this idea of what if there was a resource for people who, when they come out to somebody as bisexual, they could send this to somebody and it would kind of answer all of those questions for them so that you don't have to carry that kind of mental load
by FAQs.
The bi FAQ. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like totally. You come out to someone as bi and they go, wait, okay, so I heard about this about bi people. You should tell me. It's like, wait, I might just be figuring this out for myself for the first time. Or maybe there's 30 years behind this decision to come out. What if there was a pretty neutral and pretty non-pushy, because I'm very aware that the people we come out to are perhaps naive to the cause, that it felt very neutral, very non-political, kind of educational piece. And the really exciting thing about it, so I've kind of done a first draft of it. And I shopped it around on Reddit and on Facebook to other bisexual communities and groups and kind of said, guys, I'm just open for some feedback and any kind of input. Am I missing anything? Is there anything that I've nailed? Is there anything that like I kind of missed the mark on? And I feel like I'm going to get emotional because I've got some like really beautiful feedback and have been really affirmed from community globally. There's people from Canada and the US and over in Europe and even locally here just saying, wow, I wish I had this when I was younger. Or had someone today say, I'm actually about to come out to somebody. I think I'm about to use this. And like, it was so cool. And like, we also got some really good thoughts on like, oh, actually, could you include this? And absolutely, I would love to include those things. And so I'm really excited to create this resource for people. And it's just got us kind of buzzing about, we've just got us buzzing about like all these different types of resources we could put together. Like, what about an actual coming out for the person coming out? Or what if there's a how to organize a bi local group or a bi podcast? Like, how do we create resources for people to do this work themselves or do other things? So I'm really kind of buzzing off it, and I'm excited to share it. By the time this episode comes out, it will be live. I'll put it in the show notes. Please take a look.
So proud of you, Chad.
Thank you.
Incredible.
It's labor of love. It's been quite fun to work on.
It's the way that you make ripples and change lives without ever knowing about it. Yes, you get the feedback, but for every bit of feedback, there's 20 that you don't get feedback from.
Yeah.
I just know that like there are so many people who come out to say their partners or their family members, and they might have really well-meaning family members and partners, and they go online going, "Oh fuck, my partner just came out as bi. What does this mean?" And I know from experience and just looking up myself over the last few days that the first things you come across are particularly not great. They lean heavily on stereotypes and misconceptions and a lot of personal stories about heartbreak and things like that. And I just wanted there to be a resource that, like, what if you just got the facts? What if you just got something that was really bare bones and just told you, like, oh, this is what that is?
Anything that makes it easier for bi people is just
right
to come out, even like, gosh, incredible.
Yeah. And I mean, selfishly for us, it's on our podcast website. So like we've got more hits just on that one page than like the whole podcast so far, which has been really wonderful. And so that'll kind of point to this, and then we'll point to other resources, and it can kind of create a bit of a web of information. And
Give It To Me Bi is more than just a podcast. It's more than just a podcast.
Absolutely.
And as we grow, I mean, this weekend, of course, we're helping host the Bi Rainbow event at
excited.
Town Hall from the
By the time this
Business
goes live,
Association.
that would have been 2 days ago.
Okay, so we just, oh my gosh, that was fantastic, wasn't it?
It was so fantastic. Sorry I couldn't be there. You guys smashed it.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely, we did.
I had a great time.
Have you seen that Lady Gaga interview on was it Jimmy Kimmel or something? And they were just like, "So, Lady Gaga, would you like to sing for us now?" And she was like, "Didn't we just do that?" And they're like, "No, you're about to do it."
So funny. I love that reference. What a good reference.
Yeah, that's good.
We love Gaga. So Gaga is almost getting as many references on this podcast as Susie down the hall.
Britt, I have one. Susie.
I have one other bylight. I'll keep it short because I went a bit long on the first one. But our last episode, 2 episodes now, with Christy Newman, the bi relationships episode, has been one of our most successful episodes. People are loving it. They're writing in about it, sharing it, and it's just really super cool. When we kind of launch the podcast, we have these kind of thoughts of like, I wonder what's going to work well and what will resonate. And I'm a big marketing and analytics numbers person, so I'm watching them every day. And it's just so cool to kind of go, whoa, wow, this one's like really kind of touching a bone. And so thanks for loving that episode, everybody. It means a lot to us. I know Christy's pumped about it, and we will have Christy back on absolutely in the future.
Yeah, I can't wait. Speaking of touching bone.
Touching bones.
Fantastic segue, Steve.
Segue of the entire show so far.
I'll show myself out, everyone. I'll show myself out.
We should just Costanza it right now. You'll never, you've peaked.
I think that's it, guys.
Wow, that was so good.
I really hit a hole in one with that one, didn't I?
Wow.
Oh, no. All right, so the main portion of this episode, of course, we are talking about pegging.
And so not about laundry or about pirates. Is that right?
No.
Not to be confused with laundry pegs.
Laundry pegs, no peg legs.
Yeah, or camping, because I was told that pegging is also when you peg in a tent.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, I don't go bush very often.
I'm going bush right now.
A different kind of bush, maybe.
Look, this is a sexier episode, and I'm wearing my sexy top, and we're talking about a sexy topic. So we've got a couple of sexy tops in here right now, actually, and sexy bottoms, and sexy verse people. Because
thank you very much.
In
Thank
the
you for
world
being
of pegging,
inclusive. Appreciate
all
it.
are welcome. So, look, like I love to say, pegging is the future. So, Britt, our wonderful guest here, and I have previously run pegging workshops for both beginner and experienced people alike. And my motivation behind starting the workshop was sort of in reaction to the lack of men's voices and men's experiences in the pegging scene, in pegging guides, and in other pegging workshops. And you never really hear men talking about pegging, even though when we're talking about different gender pegging, and if someone identifies as such, it's men can make up 50% of the interaction. And so I think it's really important. And also for a lot of men who are getting into pegging, it might be the first time doing receptive anal sex. And so there's so much to understand. And so Britt will be talking about, we'll be bringing our own experiences and own expertise, and I'll be bringing my own in. I used to also run a workshop called Data Bottoming, where I'd help people, help up to 100 people in a workshop understand not just douching, but, all of the thought processes and anxiety, especially around receptive anal sex. And it's all about sex positivity and healthy sexual relationships. It's also really bloody fun. And, everyone's doing it. No one's talking about it. So let's get into it.
I've always found it fascinating that pegging has really nothing to do with sexuality, and it has nothing to do with gender necessarily. And so I've seen that pegging is more common in kind of queer circles, right? Like lesbians, bi folks, all that kind of stuff. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that even though it has nothing to do with sexuality and gender, we see it more in queer circles than non-queer circles?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think we've all already overcome the sexuality situation and the stigma behind all of that. So I think it's about openness, honestly. And I think queer people are more likely to be open about things that, are perceived to be, different, or, like you said, hasn't really been spoken about. Like everyone's doing it, but no one's really talking about it. I think penetrative, like anal sex is deemed to be gay, right? Like it's always been seen to be that sort of way. But I don't know, I've got a lot of straight male friends, and it's a conversation that I openly have with my male friends, have done so today even. I think, the more we talk about it, the easier it's and more accepted it is going to be. It is important that we have male voices out there like Steve that's willing to talk about pegging from the male perspective, because for a woman, I mean, it's seen to be like a very dominant thing, and like a power play sort of situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just about openness. And I think, we've already come through trials and tribulations of our own sexuality, right? Like what else is there to explore? Like we've jumped those hurdles. We're ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that. I tend to agree. I think that in my eyes, we as queer people are forced to unpack what and why and how we exist and all that entails. And you go, well, I've done the work over here, I can do the work over there. Like, what? That's fine. Whereas I feel like a lot of people are kind of just running with the card they've been dealt. And so you go, oh, okay, well, I'll do this. And then I'll do the version of sex that I've been told I need to do. And I'll do the version of relationships I've been told I need to do. So, yeah, I think you're totally right. I think it's about that kind of like, I've done the work. Like, I'm exploring, and let me continue exploring.
So, of course, for those uninitiated, and of course, our listeners, this might be the first time you've ever heard of it. You might have been pegging for years. But pegging is, to use, I guess, a general definition, the use of a strap-on and a sex toy for penetrative sex. It can be vaginal or front hole or anal. So, we want this to be a really, this is an accepting space. We want this to be a diverse space. I'll be speaking from my own personal experience of being a man. And being the receptive partner. It's really interesting because pegging for me, and Britt, I'd love to hear your perspective on this as well. Pegging for me is just sex, right? Like, I use the term pegging because that's what people understand it to be. But, especially questions I get, like people might ask questions about, pegging with a toy versus fucking with a penis. I'm like, well, it's just sex for me.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I date men and I also date women. Like, sex is sex, right? Yeah, I completely agree.
Because some people might see it as like a kink or like something for special occasions or something.
Special occasions. It sounds like we're doing pegging Christmas. So the second, we're starting to create a Give It To Me by Advent calendar. The second one that you'll open up is your strap-on. There's no chocolate in this one, thankfully.
No, if you follow my guides on douching, there will not be any chocolate in your Advent calendar. But at the same time, if there is, there's no biggie. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And so some people might view it as a kink, and that's totally cool. Like if you do, you do. Like some people, I see a lot. I'm in a lot of pegging groups on social media, and a lot of the discussion, especially from heterosexual people, is the notion of it being a power play, and it's quite funny. Like it might be in like some sissy role play or things like that. So there are so many different ways to explore pegging and that sort of dynamic. And I guess that's the exciting thing with pegging is that it's not one thing; it's whatever it means to you.
Completely, and it's different for every single person and every single partner. Honestly,
yeah, I really like what you said before about it's just sex, because it really highlights what a lot of queer, especially queer women, experience is that like sex is not P in V, right? That is not sex equal.
Exactly.
Sex encompasses so many different types of sexual acts and intention and location and apparatus. There's so many different things that kind of make up what sex is. And so I appreciate that it's just sex. However, it is just sex that a lot of people may be naive or ignorant to the experience of. And so here we are trying to open that door for people. Now, the way we might kind of frame this episode, because there's a lot of questions around pegging, right? I've had plenty in the past, and I'm sure at different points we've all had plenty of questions. And it can be a bit embarrassing to ask about sex. And so I'm going to play the part of audience. I'm going to play the part of workshop attendee. We are attending the workshop of Steve and Britt. Do we have a name for this workshop?
It's just the pegging work. Oh, it's pegging 101.
Pegging 101. Oh. Get pegged. Great.
Get pegged.
So
get pegged.
That's the takeaway. Hashtag get pegged.
Done. Just get pegged. That's the CTA. The call to action. Go and get pegged. So we have sourced some questions from audience on Instagram and in our Facebook group. Facebook group is going off with questions. A little plug for the Facebook group. Go and join. We have great conversation in there. So I have some questions to ask on behalf of the audience. I also have a list of common questions about pegging. And so if you hear my voice, just picture it as the little voice inside your own head. If you have more questions, though, Steve and Britt happy to respond to questions on Instagram, in the Facebook group, whatever it might be. So get along and ask them there. So for now, you and I, audience, are going to sit back and kind of take some things in. Whoa, good pun. There we go.
Drum roll, please.
These are writing themselves. And Steve and Britt are going to walk us through their workshop.
Absolutely. So, look, I mean, let's start with the basics. Look, we've gone over some different conceptual ideas and it's philosophical. The notion that we can introduce this sort of thing into a relationship, a sexual dynamic is so exciting. But I always like to start with an important discussion around consent because before any sort of sexual intercourse, consent is necessary. Consent is sexy to use that overused phrase, but it really is. It must be emphatic from all parties. Consent must be freely and voluntarily given. And consent is, of course, an ongoing process and can be withdrawn at any point, especially with pegging because 100%. It's growing in popularity. You need to understand that, everyone should understand that they have the right to say no. They have the right to
change their minds.
change their mind. You have
Absolutely.
the right to be able to assess the scene and make sure that you're comfortable, because at the end of the day, all of this is about pleasure, and it's such a pleasure to talk about pleasure, right?
Yeah, completely.
And so, you look, one of the big questions we always get, and we'll talk about it a bit more at the end as well, is pegging is the use of a utensil with a strap on for penetrative sex. So there are different types of gear for pegging, of course. So strap-on dildos. There are also double-ended dildos that require no strap. What else is there, Britt?
I mean, the ones that require no strap require a lot of pelvic floor. Not, I mean, obviously handheld, but
yeah, I mean, you could even define pegging as well to, you can also hold the toy if you like. You can use the thrust. There are so many different ways. Then, of course, there are things like lube, the utilization of condoms if you're using toys on multiple partners or between you and your partner. The use of a condom to maintain safety. And then things like poppers as well, which is a discussion that can be had around ways to
relax,
increase enjoyment. Yeah, to relax, increase enjoyment, reduce the risk of damage as a receptive partner. And then, of course, there are different things you can use for cleaning your toys. We've probably all seen different sitcoms where they throw a dildo in the dishwasher. Don't do that, because they usually melt.
Broad City.
All right, Chad, the audience has a question.
Yes, you have a question. I think a lot of us here in the audience, me and my siblings here,
yes. Susie,
gesticulating. Yes, it's Susie down the hall. Maybe that's a merch idea for future. What about cleaning? Like not toys, but like how do we keep ourselves clean? Like the poo-poo conversation. What are we doing about it?
I'm so glad you asked, because that's the next portion of the presentation this evening.
I didn't even know it. I feel great.
So we're talking about douching. We're talking about, and because I'm going to talk from my own perspective as a man with a bumhole. So receptive partner preparation and douching. Now, as I said at the start of the show, you've got to douche your mind before you douche your hole. What I've come across so much in making these sorts of presentations is that so much around being the receptive partner and difficulties that you can face, especially as a man, come from anxiety, come from being introduced to something that you don't know. But even years of experience, you can still be nervous. And nerves do not make for an enjoyable or pleasurable experience. It can take away from the experience. It can not always be a pleasant experience when there's anxiety. So
I think as long as those nerves are shared, like, talk about being nervous and talk about, how you're feeling in the moment, come to an agreement together, or, personally just feel comfortable and confident to be able to say how you're feeling. Because I think that always eases the pressure, like big time, like you said, could have been the first time or the 10th time, it can be nerve-wracking. So share the nerves, share the feelings.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, Chad. Yes,
I have another question.
Chad's got his hand up.
So when I was in school, the word douche was an insult. What do you mean douche your mind and douche your hole? What does that mean?
But with douching, this is the notion of cleaning out your rectum so that you can have a poo-free experience. What I also tell people, a big source of anxiety around sex, around anal sex especially, is around the cleanliness factor. Am I going to be clean? Am I going to embarrass myself? Is it going to be shit? Literally. And what I tell people is, so what? Accidents happen. No one minds. And if you're having sex with a partner,
no shame.
No shame at all.
No shame.
We're all human. We've all got the same body part.
Completely.
And if you need to pause through a session to go and clean up, that's normal. That's so normal. So getting hung up before I go into the douching discussion, it's like, what are you actually afraid of? Are you afraid of embarrassing yourself? Are you afraid of germs, perhaps? If you're afraid of germs, make sure that you are just, you're cleaning up immediately, making sure that you're washing things correctly, washing your sheets afterwards correctly, all that sort of stuff. But there are, of course, many, many tried and true ways to clean out your bum. But rapid fire, number one.
Psyllium husk.
There we go.
Psyllium husk.
Yeah. So brand names like Metamucil. So that's a fiber supplement. Cool. So yeah, so psyllium husk is a fiber supplement, and what that does is it binds your poo together in your digestive system, and that means when you go to the toilet before you douche, so you'll douche in the shower, you'll go to the loo beforehand. That just means that you're going to have good solid poos that are going to come out, and there's less debris left in your rectum to clean up afterwards. Now you've done that. So you go into the shower, and you can use a variety of different utensils for douching. You can pop down to your local sex shop and buy things like a bulb. So they're like these black bulb things with a nozzle on the end. And what you do is you fill that up with water, put the nozzle in your bum, give it a squeeze, hold the water in for no longer than a second, and then you release the water. Now, that's the general notion around douching. You're putting water in your bum and you're letting the water out so that you're cleaning yourself out. And there are different utensils you can use. You can buy a hose. You can buy a really handy attachment for your shower. There are different attachments you can put on water bottles as well. And I like to tell people, don't use too much water because you want to avoid forming reservoirs of water up inside of you. You want to avoid overloading yourself with water. That can give you an upset tummy, and it can also visit you later on. So I tell people less water is better. You can take as much time as you want in the shower. Britt, I'll leave you waiting for half an hour if I need to. Where are you?
No, there's never that.
No, and there's never that pressure. We're all understanding. And
I'm already learning something because when I learned what douching was and looked up videos on the internet, I found the kind of one video I could ever find, and it was a guy who would use a bulb, do a lot of water, and then would dance around the bathroom for 5 minutes, making sure to kind of shake it all loose.
Oh my God, that's so scary. That is terrifying. 5
You're
minutes
just putting it further up
long.
there. Because the way that your anatomy works, you've got an outer sphincter, the one that you see, the nice little pucker. But then you've also got a second sphincter up there. And your digestive tract is, of course, very, very long. And what you don't want to do is actually get water deeper in there. Now, of course, if you're pegging with really large toys, so 12 inches plus, that's going past your second sphincter. And so you're wanting to do a deeper clean. And that's probably a little bit more advanced than what we're going to talk about here. That requires a bit more water and time and preparation. So what we're talking about here is just simple penetrative sex with a regular sized toy. And that brings me to my next point with douching. I love douching with a toy as well, because that really helps with my anxiety. Because if I'm douching, so I pop, squirt the water in with my douche bulb, let the water out, and I can put a toy in there. Not only does it sort of release any excess water that might be in there, but if I pull it out and it looks clean, I can be really reassured with myself that when I step out of the shower, go and see my beautiful partner, and they're about to stick it in me, I know that that's also probably going to come out clean because I've just seen it with my very own eyes. You can also do sort of a 2-finger test. Pop 2 fingers in there, pull it out, have a look if there's any debris. If there's a little bit, just do one more squirt. And just keep going until you're comfortable. Keep going until you're comfortable. If it's coming out clear, as the turn of phrase goes, is the water clear, then you're good to go, and just do a little test with the toy. If you don't have a toy, you've got fingers.
The water test is the one that I am familiar with, where you kind of go back and forth from the shower to the toilet, and when you go back to the toilet and you look in and there's nothing there, it's all clear, it comes out like it came out of the tap. It's pretty good a sign that you've done a good clean.
Yeah.
We're good to go.
HOTTOGO. That's what we are.
HOTTOGO.
Yes, Steve is coming onto the chapel train. Thank you, Steve.
No,
Finally.
now I've been getting
about
some flack.
time.
I've been getting some flack from listeners because I'm not fully on the chapel train yet, but I can appreciate talent where I see it, and I can appreciate chapel robe. So, Brett, while I'm in the shower getting ready to be the best bottom on the planet for you, what are you doing to get ready as the top?
I mean, always making sure that there's a clear environment and that it's a nice environment, because clear environment, clear head, but that's just, again, personal choices. I will make sure that the dildo is clean. I mean, again, personal preferences, I always use condoms on them, but still it's nice to clean underneath. You never know what can get stuck under there, etc. You just want it to be, completely panic-free situation.
Yeah.
Make sure the strap's not all twisted because, I think some of us have a habit of kind of scrunching them up and putting them in the cupboard or whatever. So making sure that the strap's not twisted and that all the straps are there and everything that you need. Get lube ready as well.
Awesome. And I think you've got one there. So for our YouTube viewers, you'll be able to see it. And Britt, just tell us what it's like. There it is.
So it's
good old purple. Good old
purple. Great color. It's very bisexual.
Yeah, so it's a purple dildo and it sits in a metal ring, but they're not all metal. Like I'm sure there's plastic ones, etc. And it's got buttons that you can click them into and they open. There's 2 like thinner straps that run underneath. And then there's the 2 thicker straps on top that have Velcro on them so that you can, here you go, ASMR for you.
Great.
And that goes around your waist, right?
It goes
so you're wearing it like sort of like underwear.
Basically like a belt, underwear, but like the belt, has straps on either side that you can tighten or loosen or, just to make yourself feel comfortable. So again, up to you if you want to put that on before your partner comes into the room or if you want to have fun putting it on together.
Oh, that's cool. I feel like that can be a whole part of the process,
right?
Super sexy.
Them helping you lube it up is like the funnest part.
That's great. Question from the audience: how do you shop for a dildo strap-on? Can any dildo fit in any strap, or when you buy a strap, does it come with a dildo? Can you mix and match? How does that work?
I mean, every brand's different. I think going to a sex shop, there's people there that can help you. They're not there to make you feel bad about yourself. They're there to be exciting and make this the best experience for you, right? Like they're there to help. Sometimes a bit daunting walking into a sex shop. Like you don't, you might not have ever been into one before and it can feel a little bit scary. But, those people are people too. Like everyone is out to experience pleasure or, try something different. And I mean, everyone's different. Everyone's different about what sizes they like. I mean, if you're a beginner and going into it as like the receiving person, I think it's personal choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there's different size rings that you can get to fit the different base plates, I suppose. Like this one that I've got here has like a rather like thick base plate, so the ring on it is quite large. I'm sure there are, you can mix and match between. Like this one that I have is definitely very easy to mix and match. Obviously, just with the dildo, it just has to have like a flat surface underneath in which you can kind of clip it onto the harness.
And what if I'm not comfortable going to a sex shop? What if that's not an environment I feel comfortable in? What's the best kind of alternative for me to explore my options?
I mean, there's definitely online. There's a lot of online platforms that you can look into that explain it pretty clearly. I don't know too much about Normal. I have bought a few things from them, but not really anything for like pegging wise, I suppose. But there's definitely a lot of options online. And I mean, if anyone's interested, I can always put up a links situation linking to particular places as well.
Yeah. I mean, like, because it is growing in popularity, it's, strap-ons are everywhere. And there are lots of options for you to look at. And
cut a hole out of some undies.
I have seen that.
I've done
Not
it.
even kidding. Jeans, and you zip it down and you put a dildo in the front of your jeans because they're really sturdy.
I mean, the zipper's not very comfortable
and that's kind of
for the receiver, but...
Yeah, I feel like the jeans are hot, the zipper, ouch.
Num.
That's so interesting because there is a kink called, have you heard CFNM?
No.
There's a whole like porn category. So it's called clothed female, naked male. And so if you're into CFNM, jeans with a strap on, boom.
Damn.
Sorry, my mind was blown, and I've revealed a little bit of my search history to you all. So
okay, can you send me that link?
The show notes for this episode are going to be wild.
So everyone's ready, and so we get into the bedroom or the back seat or wherever you want to do it.
Hot.
And it's about bringing together all the parts, but most importantly, you're bringing two people together, or three or four, however many you want, but you're bringing people together. And so
you're a poet.
I'm also
a fiend.
A fiend. Thank you. We are allowed to swear on this show, but I also like to keep somewhat demure. And you're bringing together all the parts, and we're communicating consent. We're getting emphatic consent. By this stage, we will have hopefully discussed anxieties. We would have discussed all sorts of things, but communication, are you ready? How does this feel? Getting into foreplay, making sure people are aroused, all partners are aroused, because this is sex. We are not talking about giving pleasure to one person. Everyone is getting pleasure in this. And, nothing is sexier than talking about sex, because it's really hot to talk about these things with your partner. And we have an audience question.
Hi, my name's Chad. I'm from Sydney. Thank you. First time.
Hi,
Hi, Chad.
Hi, Chad.
What if I'm uncomfortable talking about sex or talking through sex? I have sex. My partner and I have great sex. However, the actual talking about it is something we've never really done before. How do we kind of bridge that gap?
So when it comes to communication, it is a skill, and it's not a skill that everyone has, but it is just really important. And to learn those communication skills, it's patience and understanding. It's making sure that you're comfortable and your partner or partners are comfortable. Now, there are also lots of non-verbal cues as well. If you're not a particularly verbal person, I know especially, like for me, I quite often just like to get into the action. And I will say, you don't have to check in with me. I will tell you if something's not okay. Or other dynamics might have, repeated check-in. Is this all right? Is everything all right? What do you want? Would you like anything to change? There are lots of different communication styles. And like with the non-verbal communication styles, it could be with touch, as long as you've got initial consent to touch. It could be through your own movement. If you want a particular position, moving into that position rather than asking if you'd like to change position. There are lots of different ways, but you have to make sure that you've established that sort of communication style. I'll tell someone beforehand if I'm not going to use verbal communication so much, and if it's more, I'm going to just go with the flow, but always keep that door open to bring things up, especially when it comes to consent. Now, in action, of course, lube is really important. So, Britt, do you want to tell us a bit more about what lubes are appropriate?
I think if you are going to use a condom on a dildo, definitely don't put it underneath the condom. So you don't want it slipping around. But there's a few different types of lube. Like you've got your water-based, and you've also got oil-based. Water-based is better.
I prefer water-based too.
I think it's less sensitive, like less chemicals. Like you don't really want oil.
Yeah, I find oil like personally super glidey, and I feel more sensation with water-based lube. Like it's not grippy, but there's a pull to it, and I quite like that. But some people, especially if you're starting off, you might just want that like smooth glide.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
So a more glidey lube could aid a first timer or someone who may find it, I guess, a little bit trickier.
Certainly. And also what you'll read a lot in pegging guides, I hate the phrase people say, lube, and more lube. And I'm very much a lube, use as much as you need, less is more. It's such a throwaway line that I think people need to actually throw away, because more lube is not better, not necessarily better. You can make a big mess, but also
check in.
If you are losing sensation when, like, if you're using too much lube and you're actually getting too adventurous, like you're stepping up in sizes too quickly, that can cause damage, and that can be a risk. Also, when there's a lot of lube going around, say your hands are slippery or you're making a mess, that can be really distracting during sex. If you need to pick up a glass of water and your hands are lubey and you need to hydrate, which you should during sex, and you drop it, you use a sensible amount of lube, people. This lube, more lube needs to be put to bed.
Can I jump in as Chad, the host, not Chad, the audience member?
Yeah.
I think the conversation around lube is an interesting one, because here we have Steve and Britt, who are this is something that you guys do not infrequently, right? And so you found a tolerance or like I guess a comfortable arrangement with what toys we use and how much lube we use, etc.
Trial and error.
Yeah, through trial and error. And I think that's an important conversation to have, because I think, generally speaking, I don't think people use enough lube in sex, generally speaking. I think lube has, especially in straight circles, because pegging is for everybody, and I think just men in general, and this is my by men as well, lube is a conversation that has unfortunately had negative connotations, like, oh, if you need lube, you can't get her wet, that kind of stuff. And so there are hangovers about like perhaps erroneous ideas around lube. And so I would encourage people to explore how much lube is necessary.
Yeah.
You might find that to get started, you need more lube than you thought you did, because maybe as you're using lube and you put a bit on your toy, maybe it goes all over the toy and you've kind of run out of any for yourself, or you've used it all on yourself and there's none for the toy. And as you get further along, a little bit deeper, the inside might need a little bit of lubing as well, because it's drier than it was on the outside. So definitely explore and see, as Britt rightly said, it's through trial and error you'll find what's right for you. I found that like it's more than I expected, but less than maybe what porn in certain kink circles might suggest. Like, we're not using for this exercise Crisco cake shortening. We are using lube. That's
the fisting episode.
Yeah, that's the fisting episode. There we go. I'll take off my host hat and go back to audience. Thank you.
No, thanks, Chad. And
Thanks, Chad.
It's definitely about personal preference and discovering that and taking those baby steps and figuring it out. There are no rules to this. Like there are no rules, because you set what is pleasurable to you. Now, another important discussion that we should have is around poppers. Now, poppers are a chemical, a nitrite that you can find in a little bottle, often in sex shops, or you can buy them online. They are often sold as a VHS head cleaner or a leather cleaner, but they are a muscle relaxant. And interestingly enough, here in Australia, we are the only place in the world where medical authorities and the government endorses poppers as a sexual aid. It is approved by the Therapeutic Goods Administration as a sexual aid for receptive sex, which is quite amazing. And that was part of a campaign that I led when they tried to ban poppers. So a few years ago, they tried to ban poppers because they are dangerous. They are a chemical. If you drink it, it can be deadly. But when you inhale it, it is an inhalant. It acts as a muscle relaxant. And in relaxing your muscles, that decreases the risk of damage being done. It also creates a euphoric effect. Hello, Chad. We have an arm up.
Hi.
Oh, that's the fisting episode again.
Hi, Chad from the audience here. Would love to ask, you talk about poppers. I am not a person that uses substances in any kind. I don't drink alcohol, and I don't do drugs. It's not something that's really ever caught my fancy. Does this count as drugs? Am I kind of breaking my straight edge kind of lifestyle if I want to use poppers? And could you perhaps tell me, how does someone use poppers?
Well, like I mentioned, it is approved by the Therapeutic Goods Administration as a sexual aid. It's as much a drug as, I compare it to, say, Viagra. Viagra is approved to be used to help the active partner have sex. And bottoms, we have things like poppers that have been approved for use for receptive sex. Anything can be considered a drug. and it's up to your own personal preference. You by no means need to use it. If you've never used it and you don't want to, don't. If you've used them before, make sure you use them safely. But it is something that is out there, something that people need to consider, and use it safely. So it is a chemical. It can burn skin. If you get it on your skin, make sure you wash it off immediately. Use a cream around your nostril as a barrier, because one way to inhale it. So it comes in a little bottle. You unscrew the top. You can either inhale it through your mouth or through your nose. Just a brief whiff. Make sure you close the lid tightly. Pop it away. You'll get a rush of euphoria, and your muscles will be relaxed. And in that moment, it makes it easier as a receptive partner. The best way for it to be stored is in your fridge or freezer, and do not keep it for longer than a couple of months, because it does go off, and then it can give you nasty headaches. It's not a wonderful thing to keep around. Fresh poppers, if you respect yourself. That is my number one bit of advice. You deserve to spend that $45 down at the sex shop to have a safer experience, because do not also, a very important point here as well, is to not use it in conjunction with drugs like Viagra. It is a vasodilator, and when it is used with Viagra, it can be lethal. It can be very dangerous. So if you are using Viagra, do not use poppers.
Thank you so much for answering my question. That was actually really enlightening. I didn't know that you could inhale through your mouth. I've only ever done it through my nose. That's super interesting. Okay, I have two questions. One, what do I ask for when I go to the sex shop? Because I asked for poppers one time. They looked at me like I was being naughty. And then the second question is, I really like poppers a lot. Should I get a tattoo of poppers on my body?
Well, Brett, don't you start. So in a sex shop, some sex shops don't stock it. Many don't. So there is a legal grey area around how it's sold as well. So to be able to access poppers, you can be prescribed it by your doctor. So you can go to your doctor and ask for a prescription, because if you don't have a prescription, you are actually not legally allowed to have poppers, because it is a prescription substance. So get a prescription from your doctor. If your doctor doesn't know how to do that prescription, there's a fantastic online resource where you can learn all things about poppers, and it also has instructions on how you can get a prescription for them. It's called rinseandrepeat.info. It's an Australian-made guide around Australian laws, because there are laws that guide the use of poppers. And just make sure that you follow those sorts of instructions. It's important to know your rights and responsibilities when it comes to poppers.
That's great. We will have that link in the show notes.
Thank you. So we've had the discussion around how you can safely have sex with different lubes, how the receptive partner can potentially relax with poppers. But of course, there are other techniques to relax. There are breathing techniques, taking a pause, getting your head out of that space. I find like those, especially if you're a beginner, it can be quite an intense experience, right, Britt?
Yeah.
And so you sort of might want to remove yourself from that mental space, have a reset. There's actually no shame in saying, can we pause for 10 minutes, have some water, pop on a different
100%.
song, and then come back to it. That's normal. Also, if you're not feeling confident about your douche as well, like you can take a pause halfway through, go check yourself in the shower. There's no shame at all in that, and everyone's understanding. Now, Britt, what are your positions is always a question. Now, you can probably give us some good insight as the active partner or the top in what are some good positions for you, because and I can give some from my perspective, but tell us about some positions as the top.
Like, I mean, as a top, and also I suppose it's, again, different with like height differences, etc.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always going to be the same. And everyone likes something different. From behind is always like, an easy one. If you need to get a stool, there's also, a stool option.
So the bottom's on all fours in that position.
Using pillows or whatever to prop either one or both of you up.
Mm-hmm.
As needed.
Because sometimes it could be like a chihuahua fucking like a Great Dane sometimes. Just to put that visual in everyone's head.
How dare you refer to me as a chihuahua?
How dare you think of yourself as a Great Dane? An okay Dane at best.
I'll take that.
Wow.
So different positions. And then for me as the bottom, like, I can be on my back, but, popping a pillow under my hips so I can elevate my hips closer to, because you really want to be as level as possible with where the dildo is entering you. Otherwise, things can get really awkward. Now, Britt, how do you find... Sorry?
As a woman or, any other vagina owner, it's not my body part, so it's a lot harder to kind of position perfectly. So, again, trial and error. Need to move it around. Unstrap, restrap.
Yeah.
No shame in unstrapping and restrapping. Completely.
Yeah, have fun with it, everyone.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to sound this might sound rude, but stress less. Like, have fun. Have fun with it. Have a laugh. Like, sex stuff is not serious. Sex is fun and pleasurable. Beautiful. So we asked our wonderful audience, our wonderful listeners, and our followers online, make sure you follow us on Instagram at Give It To Me By, because every week we ask you, we want to hear your inputs. And this throws nothing without you guys. So we really love hearing from you. And we've got a ton of questions. It turns out people are really curious about pegging. And so we're here to answer some of your questions. Give us a call out if your question is asked. And Chad, hit us. Hit us with your rhythm.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna role play. I'm gonna introduce another kink. I'm gonna role play a different character per question. Is it okay?
So we're doing role play. Great.
Yeah. Hello, Steve and Britt. This has been a great episode. Love your work, doll. Listen, is pegging comparable to a real penis in terms of which is better? Which do you prefer?
Okay, which is better? There's no such, I don't see any such thing as better. Pleasure is just pleasure. Everything can be fun in its own way. And like I said, it's just sex. So comparable to a real penis, I don't think it needs to be compared to a real penis. It's its own awesome experience. It's in its own ecosystem. It's just something that I really enjoy. And also, as a bi man and someone, I'm versatile, but, I love receiving anal. I know that when I was discovered that I was exploring my bisexuality and wondering, how can I still maintain my relationship to receptive anal sex? And then I discovered, oh, yeah, of course, there's this incredible thing called pegging. It's quite funny because I talk very openly about this stuff. People think that I'm a bottom. I'm absolutely not a bottom. I'm just a very good bottom. They say but how could you be bi? And I'm like, there is a whole wonderful world out here called pegging, and you all need to catch up to it. And so, no, it's its own thing.
There's different textures that you can get as well of dildos.
Totally.
You can get the more thermal ones, you can get metal ones, you can get wooden ones, which,
Wooden.
You can...
Lacquered, I'm sure.
Lacquered.
Yeah, lacquered. Come on. You can also get jade ones. You can get
yes,
full crystal ones.
The full goof experience.
Personal preference.
As a bisexual, I don't have a preference on anything. So don't ask me to make a choice because I'm just going to say yes.
Great. Okay, so next question. Hello. Some suggestions. Do you have some suggestions on what the giver/wearer should be looking for in a harness? And then they've written, I love pegging.
I think thick straps are great because it's more grip over your body and gives you more control, I suppose. I think Velcro is really good. I prefer Velcro, the ones that have the metal rings with the in and out, where you weave the material through it. I feel like they can get a bit pinchy. So the ones with the Velcro straps and soft material as well, because you don't want it digging into you. I feel like I started out with one of those polyester straps that you basically see on the back of a ute. Those are not comfortable. The one that I have is suede leather. And I think it cleans really well and it's really soft and, doesn't cut into you, which is great because you kind of need it to be tight.
Good
Great.
advice.
Well, 2 people actually asked that question, so that's fantastic. Okay, here's another one. G'day, love.
Oh, no.
G'day, love. On pegging, I struggle with penetration. It hurts. How do you ease that?
So, yeah, we went through a few different tactics that you can take. You ask yourself, is it your mind that is limiting you as well? So is anxiety, because anxiety, which is why I tell people you have to have your mind in the right place as well, can 100% cause you to tighten up, can cause your body to recoil, can cause all sorts of things. Your mind has incredible control over your body subconsciously. So have a look at, assess, is it something you can mentally overcome? And so can your thought processes change? Can pauses help? Can reducing your anxiety before, during, and after sex help with that? And also discussions you have with yourself, well before and well after you're having sex, your relationship to being the receptive partner. Are you, what is your comfort level? Can that help you overcome any of the discomfort that you're experiencing? Then, of course, when it comes to the actual, if there's physical pain, you should stop, you should pause, you should see what's causing that pain. If there's damage, you need to stop. You need to make sure that your body has an incredible ability to mend itself. But of course, if you cause further damage, you're delaying that mending, because it is quite delicate tissue down there. So you want to be quite careful. You want to make sure that you're looking after your bum. And yeah, we went over a few different ways that you can help yourself loosen up if that's where the discomfort is. Things like your breath work, things like conversation, pauses, keeping hydrated, things like poppers if you want to go down that route, as long as you get a prescription, remember. Yeah, there are lots of different ways that you can make it a comfortable experience, because it should be a comfortable experience. There are millions and millions, billions of people who are having receptive anal sex and do it comfortably. You can have that too.
Oh,
I
thanks,
feel like we
love.
haven't even touched on rimming, or starting off small with, maybe try like the tip of a finger, or start off with one finger, then try 2 fingers, just slowly ease into it rather than just going bam.
Yeah, so what Britt's just talked about is, of course, foreplay. And that's if your discomfort is coming from, whether it's anxiety, like mind-based discomfort, or bodily discomfort, foreplay can really be, like Britt's suggestions there, can be just a huge, huge help to ease yourself into it.
Ease anxiety, start off with things that you are comfortable with. If it is
and
your
don't
first
push your
time,
boundaries,
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think rimming as well, like a great way to get started.
Big proponent of rimming. It's really, rimming is such an intimate thing. And of course you want to, by the stage you're all clean down there, everything's fine. It's just part of your body. Rimming's hot. And it's a great form of foreplay, and it can help you relax and also build that intimacy and connection with your partner, because
it's
that
sensitive.
will help you relax. You're telling me.
Oh, thanks, love. That's a great question there. Oh, that's another audience member. Hello, can a penis owner also wear a strap-on?
Yeah, anyone can. Absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to tell you how big mine is, but mine isn't 12 inches long or 15 inches long. If you want to, and it doesn't have like epic ridges or like weird shapes, or like mine doesn't vibrate. And so as a penis owner, if I want to introduce this huge diversity of experiences, I can absolutely strap one on and have all of those different experiences as the top wearing a strap on. 100% go for it. This is the thing. It's like, penises are great, but pegging is a whole universe.
Oh, you tickle me.
That's the rim job.
I feel like that's the end of my characters. I don't have anyone else to
Please don't.
to muster. I have I do a great Elmo impression, but that's about it. And
We
I
are
don't
bringing Elmo
want to
into
taint
this.
this.
Elmo loves pegging.
Say taint again.
Elmo probably would. Great. Okay, so we have some more questions from the audience. Britt, what's in it for the giver? Is it similar to other forms of sexual giving where pleasure and enjoyment comes from primarily from the act of giving itself and knowing that your partner is enjoying themselves? Or is there the opportunity for direct sexual stimulation for the giver too? If so, how?
Totally. Yes to both. Yes to both. But again, I think everyone is completely different. Some people really get off on it without any stimulation. Others need stimulation. I mean, yeah, of course, it's amazing to see your partner getting off on it. Like that's really hot. But yeah, I mean, Steve mentioned before, you can get double-ended dildos, different shaped ones. I've got one that has a vibrator that you can insert into it, and then you get clitoral stimulation. So yeah, absolutely, like both.
Yeah, there's the whole part of that, like, that might be where the power play comes into it, or just simple giving and receiving pleasure. It's really nice to get someone off.
Yeah.
It can be so mind expanding, pegging, I find.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people view sex as 1 + 1 = 2, but you can throw in all sorts of numbers, and it's so much more than just, an act of penetration. It's an act of connection. It's an act of, or whatever dynamic you want to bring into it. Is it an act of dominance and submission? Is it an act of sharing? Is it an act of taboo? Is it all these sorts of things? You find what gets you off in it, and you can introduce pegging into it.
Love that.
Woof. I haven't worked
Woof.
on this in ages.
Episode 2. Great. This is a question from an audience member. If someone has found they don't typically enjoy penetration in other forms, is it likely that pegging will yield the same outcome? Now, I clarified this question. I said, when you say other forms, do you mean vaginal? Do you mean penile and bottoming? Or do you mean self-play or something else? The question asker then said, as a cis male, I would only be able to relate to the penile bottoming and self-play, but I imagine a similar question would be relevant for those with the vagina who have not enjoyed penile penetration and are curious of pegging. So let's say someone has tried self-play, maybe they're fingering or using a toy or whatever it might be, and it's been difficult, or that maybe they've not enjoyed it. Could the act of pegging present a new dynamic that could change up the relationship to penetration?
I reckon. I think so. Try it. You never know how you might enjoy something until you try it. And it is that dynamic. It totally depends. Like Britt mentioned before, it's all about context, who your partner is, all that sort of stuff is really important. But to have that experience with someone that you're really turned on by, that you enjoy having sex with, or that could actually make the act of penetration an enjoyable experience for you, even if you haven't enjoyed penetration before.
Completely.
Correct. Now, this is a good question. Can pegging be dangerous, and how can you make it as safe as possible? What dangers await us potentially in the realm of pegging?
So yeah, of course, like with any sex, that dangers can await. I mean, off the top of my head, yes, there can be anal damage. So that's where things like lube, making sure you're loosened up, making sure you're prepared, making sure you understand that you can pause a situation or end a situation. Those are all really important things. As the strap-on wearer, Britt, like you mentioned, like you can wear it tight, and you should wear it tight, and that it can dig in. And so I've had partners before pad with, say, clothing. If it's digging into the skin, you can pad underneath the straps to make it a bit more comfortable. I mean, you can fall off the bed. Just be careful. Just making sure that every step of the way is enjoyable. If you feel like something's not right, then something's not right, and make sure that you pause and make sure everything's comfortable.
And so what should you do if, like, what does not right mean? Like, how does that manifest itself?
Yeah, if you're experiencing pain or discomfort, and that's if you're feeling uncomfortable in yourself, if you're feeling uncomfortable about the situation, or if you're feeling uncomfortable physically, do stop, do check in. Also, if you have established that your communication style is to check in throughout the session, make sure you're both doing that with each other. And ask, saying check in, just say simple things like, are you enjoying that? Does that feel all right? Would you like anything different? How is this? Just simple things like that. It's not too complicated. You don't have to overthink it too much. It's whatever communication works best between you and your partner or partners.
Earlier, you mentioned changing the song if you wanted to kind of switch things up or you wanted to check in. Do you have a pegging playlist? And if so, what songs are on it?
I like to have music on in the background, because if you do sort of need to clear your mental state or clear your mind, focusing on music can really help.
Yeah.
And also it can cover up awkward noises and that the squelching sound that sometimes happens. But I
love
find
the squelching sound.
Exactly. But all right, my favorite pegging song is "Pass This On" by The Knife. Just honestly, everyone go turn it on and you will be grooving.
Get peggy with it.
Immediately.
Get peggy with it.
Now, how does pegging fit into the broader conversations around gender roles and sexual norms? How do those manifest in the bedroom or the Hyundai i30 backseat?
Wow. The fact that you bring in my own car into this, Chad.
Oh. Is that your car?
Yes, I have a Hyundai i30.
That's my car.
Oh my God, you heard it here first. It's the bi car.
Wow.
It's the bi car. Wow, that's so funny.
Jeez. So lesbians have a U-Haul. Bi men have a Hyundai i30. Let's figure the rest out some other time.
So
what was the question again?
About gender roles.
Yeah, gender roles. Yeah.
It gives women or vagina owners a chance to switch the roles and reverse, it's not always the same.
I find we spoke about at the top of the show, like pegging can be introduced into any dynamic. If you are playing around with gender, say if it's part of a sissy role play or a dominance role play or something like that, or that's the dynamic, or you're sort of introducing it into your relationship as like a taboo thing, like this new interesting thing, gender might play a role in it. I know with me, just because I've had sort of years of experience with this, for me, it's just another part of my toolbox. It's just another thing that I love. It doesn't have sort of that greater importance. But there is like literature around this as well, around how pegging can be used as like a gender fuckery, pegging can be seen as a feminist thing. It can be interpreted as all sorts of different things. And I think that's a really exciting thing about pegging, is that it means something different to every single person. But it does mean something. I think it'd be really interesting for everyone to interrogate what pegging means to themselves, what it means to them and their partner, why they're doing it, why they're interested in it, or why they're not interested in it. Because if gender does come into a reason, say why you're not doing it, I'm a man, I don't want to be a bottom. I would interrogate that. I would say, no, I think it's perfectly normal for men to be receptive partners. I think it's quite very pleasurable, very enjoyable. Your G-spot is in there. A perfectly normal, enjoyable thing to do. It doesn't take away from your masculinity. It doesn't make you any less of a man. It's something incredibly enjoyable. And there's nothing gay about pegging. There's nothing gay about being the receptive partner. It's just a normal human thing.
You said G-spot. That is something that, as a cis man, someone might be interested in, or someone assigned male at birth.
I think Britt might be interested in the male G-spot too.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I guess most participants in pegging are potentially interested in that kind of pleasure. Can you speak more about it? Because we haven't spoken about it yet this episode. Mm-hmm. What is the male G-spot or the AMAB G-spot? What's it called? How do we access it? What happens? etc.?
So the moon has to be waxing, and you say a prayer to the northeast to be able to accept. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Light as a feather, stiff as a board.
So the male G spot, or the if you are a penis owner, is your prostate gland. It is found within your bum. If you're looking down towards your nether regions, it is on the surface that is closest to your penis. So it's sort of if you're lying down, it's on the upper surface inside your rectum.
So comparable to a vagina owner's G spot would be a penis owner's P spot. Is that correct?
Some people use that term, yes. There are different terms for it. The prostate. There are a lot of guys, a lot of people go into pegging expecting to be able to, come hands-free by getting pegged. But everyone's body is different.
Yeah, everyone's different. I come free, so like it's just dust and air. So,
oh my god.
Great. And we have one last question from the audience. Steve, notably, you avoided Chad's question before about a potential tattoo.
Yeah, okay, everyone. So I guess some of you know me, and if you've ever seen me after I've had one glass of wine, you've probably had a good tour of my bodily tattoos.
Yeah.
And
sometimes even without wine.
Yes. And I do have a tattoo of a bottle of poppers on my chest here.
If you're not on YouTube right now, jump over to YouTube so you can get a good view of this gorgeous pectoral muscle with a bottle of, which one is it?
I'm not going to use brand names because unless we're getting sponsored, I'm not going to bring it up.
Oh,
but
okay, there we go.
It is my favorite. It is my favorite brand. And I just got it because I gave my best friend $20 and he tattooed it on me. So that's about it.
Great.
And I just love the giggle that people get from it. But yes, there is a bottle of poppers. Tattoo.
I'll get a matching tattoo with you if the audience want to pay for it.
I'll tell you what. My mum, when she first saw the tattoo of a poppers bottle on my chest, she got really upset because you're meant to it's over your heart, so it's on my left pectoral muscle, and that's where you're meant to get your mother's initials tattooed. And she was like, "You're meant to have my name there," and I'm like, "Oh, that's your biggest concern, but the fact that I have
my mum, Rush Spencer.
Yeah, no, it's not Rush. It's not Rush. Oh,
great.
God.
Well,
all
listen.
Right, well, thank you.
A little bit of a teaser for next episode. We may or may not be talking about tattoos on the AMA Ask Us Anything, Get to Know Us episode. Guys, I think that's all the audience questions we have. Thank you, Chad. Oh, and Chad over there. Thank you, Chad.
Yes, and Susie from up the hall.
And Susie from up the hall. Thank you very much, Susie. This has been a wonderful episode. You are both so wise, so full of knowledge and wisdom. Thank you so much, Britt, for joining us. This has been an absolute dream. Everybody give it up for Britt.
Woo! Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this has been wonderful.
Laugh.
And Britt, also from a personal perspective, I wanted to thank you so much because you make me feel comfortable and safe and happy with myself in what I do, what I explore sexually. And I think for a bi man to have those sorts of experiences, it's so lucky and so integral to us. And so you're doing God's work, pegging one man at a time.
Well, myself and the audience might see ourselves out, and you guys can stay on the line together.
Oh, what are you doing?
And this is when we get into Give It To Me by After Dark for subscribers only.
No, but genuinely, these sorts of things are just such special gifts we can give to each other. And I just tell people, keep an open mind, explore, have fun. The world is pleasurable. Do not wait. Go for it. Woo!
Absolutely.
Pegging is the future.
Absolutely.
And pegging is the future.
I feel like in a world, especially for bi+ people, where so much of our narrative is quite negative, right? We've spoken previously on so many episodes about all of the different things that we face as a community that are inherently a bit shit. That joy and pleasure is a form of activism, and it's a way of saying, you know what, fuck that reality of all the negativity and all the upsetting things that we need to face. I'm going to take back some power for myself,
Mhm.
and not just some power, but some joy too. And this is one of those ways where you can explore that joy and that power. So
100%.
get pegged.
Get pegged, everyone.
Get pegged.
All right,
Fantastic.
everyone. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Give It To Me By. Join
Absolutely.
our community on Facebook. Just search Give It To Me By. You'll find our group, and that's where we engage with our audience. It's really, really exciting. We love
Absolutely.
hearing from you all.
If you are at all interested in the Coming Out Allies Guide, we will have the link in the show notes. There are also links to the Rinse and Repeat, and maybe some potential online options to get some fun toys as well. So we will have all of that in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us, Steve, Britt, myself. We are so grateful that you are here. Have a great rest of your week.
Awesome. Love you all.